Hello everyone. Gonna do another tribute video today. I just want to apologize for any background noise. I'm in my new apartment right now. I'm by a main road and by a hospital and by railroad tracks. So those three things combined can create a lot of background noise. So I do apologize if it is hard to hear me at times. So last time I did a video for Avril Lavigne. This time I'm doing a video tribute for a young singer that I came across recently. Um, I've heard her in passing over the last couple of years, but over the last couple of weeks I've been listening to her songs a lot more. I think she has a lot of talent. I think she has an absolutely beautiful soprano voice. And I know she writes her own songs, and I think that she writes very good lyrics, very poetic lyrics, like ballads, almost like Taylor Swift, who is one of her role models. And I think there's a lot that I can kind of relate to her on. I did a lot of research online about her, and watched a Vogue interview, 73 Questions, because I don't know a lot about Olivia Rodrigo, but when I write a tribute poem like this, I try to find something about the person that I can relate to, and then I write a poem about it. So with Avril Lavigne, I knew enough about her, enough of her music, to write a general tribute poem, plus the poem about her Lyme disease. For Olivia Rodrigo, I don't know enough of her songs to write a general tribute, but I do know about this particular thing that during her teen years and into her young adulthood now, she's been trying to kind of figure out who she is and define her identity. And it says online identity crisis. I don't want to negate it like that and call it an identity crisis. She's just trying to figure out who she is. She became I don't want to say famous, but um, she rose to the limelight at a very young age, which must have been a little bit scary. And she probably wasn't really sure who she was at that time. And I don't know if she has defined herself yet, um, or what her intentions are for her adulthood. But I know this is something that she was struggling with um, throughout her mid to late teen years, and one of her songs in her new album, "Making the Bed," kind of makes it sound like she's a bit scared of adulthood. As many of us are. I mean, I'm 27, and I'm certainly afraid of being an adult, even though I'm 27 and I'm already an adult, and she's only 20, so she's just barely an adult. So anyway, that is the basis for this tribute poem. It's called Figuring It Out for a reason. So first I'm going to read the poem and then we'll unpack it. So here it goes. A young woman trying to figure out who she really is. A young woman trying to figure out if she's truly his. A young woman trying to figure out what she wants out of this life. A young woman trying to make sure she always acts courteous and nice. A young woman trying to identify her identity. A young woman trying to do so pretty spontaneously. A young woman super talented but who never wanted to be famous. She simply wanted to share her gift and have her very first kiss. A young woman who's always shy about how others perceive her. But who needs them? This young woman is awesome for sure. A young woman who is aged with wisdom well beyond her years. A young woman who has also shed many, many tears. A young woman who is somewhat frightened for adulthood, but she's like the rest of us, being scared like all of us should. A young woman who writes poetry into music. A young woman who'd probably get on stage and perform even if she were sick. A young woman both terrified and excited for change. As she grows older, her world continues to rearrange. A young woman who will never run away. She will always fight and she will always slay. A young woman who sometimes feels sour. but she has a lot of guts and can make herself feel better by the hour. A young woman getting her driver's license, and at that time realizing life only made some sort of sense. A young woman now stuck on her own making the bed, but Olivia Rodrigo, in the end, as you say, everything will be fine, fine, fine. So don't worry your pretty little heart. You'll certainly get everything you want out of life as long as you love, love, love with every single part. Alright, so let's unpack this now. So a lot of this is self-explanatory. A young woman trying to figure out who she really is, discuss that, and then a young woman trying to figure out if she's truly his. That's because a lot of her songs, especially from her first album, are breakup songs and love songs. So there are a lot of question marks for those songs. Whoever they're about. Um, is she really that person's true love, or is she not? There's a lot of emotion in those songs, so that's where that line comes from. A young woman trying to figure out what she wants out of this life, so that's another thing. She, I'm gonna reference a later line. She's super talented, but she never wanted to be famous. So if she has this gift, which is in the next line, but she never wanted to be famous, but then what does she want out of life? I think that's probably something else she questions every now and then too, or maybe she doesn't. I don't know. Um, in the Vogue interview, it just kind of seems like she kind of just wants to enjoy life and have fun. Um, that's kind of what it seems like to me, and that's kind of great if that's what she wants. Seems like she is having fun. Um, I really like this line: a young woman trying to identify her identity, just because of the wordplay I did there. But yeah, I deal with with an identity crisis kind of thing as well. Trying to figure defining your identity is hard. You want to define who you are, and it's hard to figure out what you use to define yourself. Like, what do you use to define your identity? Do you use, your job? Is it your personality? Do you define yourself by how you treat other people? How do you define yourself? And I think this is something that she was struggling with. Because she was again young and becoming famous at the time. She was also acting at a young age, and I think she was just having trouble defining her identity in terms of what she wanted to use to define herself. And see, there's an ambulance passing by, so this is going to happen periodically throughout this video. And a young woman trying to do so pretty spontaneously. That has to do with the fact that I feel like she has to define herself pretty quickly, because she's probably moving pretty quickly from show to show. So that's just that there. And again, a young woman who's obviously super talented, as I described before. She has a great voice. She's a great songwriter. She plays piano and guitar, so she's a very multidimensional. She doesn't just sing; she does a lot of different musical things, which I think is amazing. Just like Avril Lavigne, but she never wanted to be famous. I read that somewhere. I think she just. So I interpreted that as she just wanted to share her gift. Number one, and number two, I think she just wants to have fun. I think performing like that, even though she gets stage fright, which I will get to in the next verse, even though she gets stage fright beforehand, I think she just has a lot of fun performing. And I think that's what she really wants. And of course, have her very first kiss. I just threw that in because it rhymes with famous. So this kind of goes back to Driver's License and that first album. So then a young woman who's always shy about how others perceive her. In I read somewhere online that she does get nervous, stage fright before she performs. I'm sure it goes away when she gets on stage. That's usually how it works. It's usually the anticipatory anxiety that's the killer. Um, but and I have that too. I have severe social phobia. I can't even go into my job at a retail department store without taking anti-anxiety pills because I'm so scared of people. So for me, it's I can definitely relate to anticipatory anxiety and stage fright. But she gets up there and she does it anyway. You know, and I read she uses prayer and meditation. That's great. That I should probably do that more instead of relying so much on medication. But everybody has their own way, and prayer and meditation is great. That's a great way of calming yourself down and bringing yourself down to earth. And I do believe she's a very down to earth person. Um, Watching that Vogue video, she just has a very flamboyant but just sparkling personality about her. Like she's like someone you would want to be friends with. She lights. I feel like she would light up the room. She just has that kind of positive vibe about her. Um, but and again, who needs them? This young woman is awesome for sure. Yes, she is. I feel like she's probably aged with wisdom well beyond her years. Some of her songs show that. But she's also a young woman who shed many, many tears, which I'm sure has happened, with breakups and stuff like that. Um, then there's a young woman who is somewhat frightened for adulthood, and I put that there because of the song Making the Bed, which kind of conveys that. But she's like the rest of us, being scared like all of us should. Again, I'm 27 and I'm scared of being an adult, even though I am an adult, so there you go. A young woman who writes poetry into music. Again, I think the songs she writes, the lyrics are very poetic, like ballads, and I think she does a very good job of writing them that way. And in terms of this line, a young woman who'd probably get on stage and perform even if she were sick, I think that's. I feel like she's very dedicated, and she would probably get on stage and perform even if she were sick. And another thing I noticed in some of her performances is she gets really, really, really involved with the crowd. She runs up and down the stage, and on the Today Show, she was running up and down the red carpet, and she gets really, really involved. She throws herself into it. That might actually be a coping mechanism for some of the stage fright that she has. That's actually a therapy skill that I learned. It's called one mindfully. I don't think maybe she knows that, maybe she doesn't, but that's actually called throwing yourself into that moment. That's one way of dealing with anxiety. Again, not saying that she is anxious, but I'm just saying that could, just from my point of view, that could be one way of dealing with stage fright is by throwing yourself into what you're doing, into your performance. All right. Um, and then a young woman who will never run away because she is not fearless, but she won't run away either. She will always fight and she will always slay. In the Vogue interview, she said that she loves using the word slay, so that's why I put this here. She will always fight, she will always slay. I wanted to reference that because she said that's one of her favorite things to say. And then here I referenced her two albums. A young woman who sometimes feels sour, because she does sometimes feel sour based on some of her songs, but she has a lot of guts, right? Because she's not fearless, but she has a lot of courage and determination and can make herself feel better by the hour. And she can do that by a number of different things: write a new song, prayer, meditation, and she has friends she can, call and everything. So that's where this comes from. So sometimes she feels sour, but she has a lot of guts and can make herself feel better by the hour. So really, the purpose of these two lines was to get these two album names in there, and then the sleigh thing up here, and then down here, a young woman now stuck on her own, making the bed, obviously trying to reference that song. But Olivia Rodrigo, in the end, as you say, everything will be fine, fine, fine. That is a quote she lives by, as she said in her Vogue interview. So I put that there for a reason. And then at the end, I wrote, as long as you love, love, love with every single part to connect love, love, love to fine, fine, fine. So that is the tribute poem for Olivia Rodrigo. Olivia, if you see this, I hope you like it. When I write these poems, I try to put myself into the shoes of the celebrities that I write them for. Um, so I hope this kind of uh, suits your personality well. If it doesn't, I really do apologize. I really do. I try my best when I do these things. Also, just a pipe dream, I guess. But I know you have an apartment on the East Coast and the West Coast. I know you have an apartment in New York. In the Either I read it somewhere or it was in the Vogue interview. But I'm actually from New York, so if you are ever in New York and see this video and we're in New York at the same time, comment on my video and maybe we'll meet up. But can't always get what you want out of life, can you? But you know what? Uh, Maybe you can. So, anyway, if you do see it, I hope you do like the poem. Comment would be great, even if I never meet you ever in person. But um, yeah, so I hope you like it, Olivia. So thank you everybody else as well for watching, and let's move on to this. This is another poem that I wrote. This is separate from the tribute. This is just so I have borderline personality disorder and depression and anxiety. And one of the symptoms of borderline is emptiness, chronic feeling of emptiness. So I write a lot about that emotion. And this poem is about a black hole devouring my soul. Um, I normally don't publish my poetry because I don't want to trigger anybody, but this poem's cool. It's not triggering really because there's no self harm in it, but I bring the science of a black hole into the sensation of feeling empty and being devoured. So I thought it would be cool to share this. This is just another example of a poem that I've written. So it's called Annihilation of an Empty Soul. And it's pretty self explanatory. The science is pretty much explained in the poem. So I won't need to unpack this as much, but I did want to share it. So here we go. Everything is shattered, everything is broken. Going back to a time when everything once mattered is meaningless and serves no purpose. It's all hopeless and doesn't even begin to break the surface. A supermassive black hole is coming, its trajectory aimed directly at my soul and very being. It's amazing what I'll soon be seeing. First, there's gravitational lensing, where the hole warps the sky, making its ominous presence known. Then comes the photon sphere, where the surrounding area lights up with magnificent auroras, and maybe there's some hope that light will return to my life. But then it's gone. As I approach the event horizon, the darkness becomes deeper and deeper. I'm almost at the point of no return. The only way I'm coming back, if there's anything left of me, is in an urn. The black hole continues to play tricks with the colors and the light. I can actually see the back of my head in front of me, a metaphor for how crazy and messed up my life is. Then I make it to the event horizon and pass through. The black hole's gravitational pull starts having profound effects on my body. It's almost as if I'm a nobody. As I'm drawn towards the singularity, the single point of the black hole with the strongest pull, I start to feel an incredible pressure pressing down on my skull. I suddenly feel this pressure throughout my entire body. I'm being spaghettified, and there is no time for goodbye. At long last, the singularity breaks my body down into dust, then atoms, then subnuclear particles. There is absolutely nothing left of me. All my hopes and dreams dashed. All my intentions to make amends slashed. My hopes of recovering and getting better trashed. The annihilation of my soul didn't mean much anyway. It's incredibly difficult to destroy something that's completely empty to begin with. So take in those last two lines because they're the most two important lines in the whole poem. The annihilation of my soul didn't mean much anyway. It's incredibly difficult to destroy something that's completely empty to begin with. So a lot of songwriters and even me sometimes will say my heart was never whole to begin with. That's a very common line. So it's sort of saying that, except I say that my soul was empty to begin with. My soul was never whole. It was always empty. So my soul was destroyed, but was it really destroyed? Because it was empty to begin with. So you have to think about that. So that's kind of like paradoxical in a sense. Um, but yeah, so I think this poem is pretty self-explanatory. Basically, the black hole. I go through all the phases of the black hole one by one, and eventually I get spaghettified by the gravitational pull towards the singularity, which is the single point of the black hole with the most gravitational pull of all that light can't even escape. And then we come to the end where I say my soul was completely empty to begin with, and then we ask ourselves, was my soul ever really annihilated then? You know, if it was empty, how could it be annihilated? So that is the paradox of that poem. So we had that. We had the Olivia Rodrigo poem. Again, Olivia, if you see this, again, I highly doubt you will, but if you do, a comment would be absolutely fabulous. I would love you forever if you commented, and if even possible, I'm in New York too. So yeah, just a pipe dream that I would ever meet you in person. But so that's where we are. But no, a comment would be great. My Avril Lavigne tribute video isn't really getting that many views, so I don't think she's ever going to see that. Um, but we'll see. Okay, that is it for me, folks. I don't know if I'm going to make another tribute video. I may, if there's two other celebrities I like that I may do tribute videos for. One is Chloe Grace Moretz, and the other one is Jenna Ortega. I like both of them very much. But for now, we'll stick with Olivia Rodrigo and Avril Lavigne. And then later on, towards the winter, I'll do my weather videos. And I may be able to do some train videos from the parking lot of my apartment complex. My father gave me permission to do that. So we'll see. All right. Thank you, folks. Take care.